speaking of hate speech, is a professor at Rutgers University who has made the news again. I remember seeing something about her earlier, but this is a tenured professor, I believe, or at least tenure track, Brittany Cooper. She's known as Professor Crunk, Assistant Professor of Women's and Gender Studies and Africana Studies at Rutgers University. So you can tell she's definitely the creme de la creme of the scholars. She has some thoughts about white people.
I think that white people are committed to being villains in the aggregate, right? The real sort of issue here, and I've heard people sort of say it, is one, I think that white people viscerally fear. It's not that white people don't know, right, what they have done. They know. They fear that there is no other way to be human but the way in which they are human, which is to, so, like you talk to white people and whenever you really want to have a reckoning about it, they say stuff like, it's just human nature. If y'all had all of this power, you would have done the same thing, right? And it's like, no, that's what white humans did. White human beings thought there's a world here and we own it. Prior to them, Black and brown people have been sailing across oceans, interacting with each other for centuries without total subjugation, domination, and colonialism, right?
Just as a little historical fact check here, that isn't true. You did not have Black Africans crossing the Atlantic Ocean to interact with the Americans. That never happened. You didn't have Native Americans crossing the ocean to interact with Europeans and Africans. That didn't happen. What she's saying is white people are the problem. They're uniquely bad. It isn't just human nature. Listen to what she's saying. She's not saying, look, this is a fallen world, and there but for the grace of God go I, and some people, a lot of power can corrupt people sometimes. And no, she's saying it's just white people. White people are bad. Black people, non-white people in general, are good. She goes on about power.
I do think that all of us can sort of agree that a politics that says like there are superior and inferior human beings just isn't the way to go. And that's the thing that white people don't trust us to do because they are so corrupt. Their thinking is so morally and spiritually bankrupt about power that they can't they fear viscerally, existentially letting go of power because they cannot imagine that there's another way to be. It is either that you dominate or you are dominated. And isn't it sad that is spiritually who they are and that they can't imagine a sort of more expansive notion of the world? The thing I want to say to you is we got to take these motherfuckers out. But we can't say that, right? We can't say, I don't believe in a project of violence. I truly don't. Because I think in the end that our souls suffer from that.
But you did just say that. You just said, you accused white people of viewing power dynamics as a relation of the dominant to the dominated, and how people have to hold on. The white people believe you have to hold on to power. You're not willing to let it go. Because these white people believe if you let it go, then the people you give the power to are just going to want to take you out. And also, I want to take these mother effers out. So she does and she says, I can't say that. But you did just say that. And that is obviously what you believe. What this Professor Crunk, Brittany Cooper, is expressing is a view of power dynamics that says we need to take power from white people and then we need to punish the white people. Why?
There were people out here making worlds, Africans and indigenous people being brilliant, and, libraries and inventions and, vibrant notions of humanity and cross-cultural exchange long before white people showed up being raggedy and violent and terrible and trying to take everything from everybody.
So there was this history of the cross-cultural exchange and inventions and all this great stuff before those awful, raggedy white people showed up and destroyed everything. Just as a matter of historical record, there was not. There was not. Not only was there not a long history of invention and exchange and trade and all in all of these places, there wasn't even the invention of the wheel. The invention of the wheel did not occur in the Americas or in Africa. They didn't get the wheel until exploration, so you might say, as often the sort of liberals will say, the anti-colonialism, anti-Western liberals will say, they'll say, well, all these societies were living in this wonderful utopia before the damn white man got there and ruined everything. And it was all basically just Avatar and the Disney version of Pocahontas. So if you're going to make that claim, then you actually would want to say, yeah, there weren't a lot of inventions. There wasn't a ton of technology. You would make the liberal claim that it's actually all of that invention and consumption and capitalism that destroys societies. You would say, no, keep your stupid inventions, Europeans. We were doing just fine without you. That would be one version of the argument. Or the other version of the argument they could make is, no, we had this thriving, wonderful society with all of these inventions and all of this technological progress, and then you terrible white people came in and screwed it all up. But then if you make that argument, then you can't attack modern capitalism and modern technology and modern industry, as very often the people who make these kind of arguments do. And here, Professor Cooper is trying to make both simultaneously, and it doesn't work. It does not hold up. So what is the upshot of all of this? I mean, she's not making very good arguments. What is the end game here?
White folks are not infinite and eternal, right? They ain't gonna go on for infinity and infinity. And that's super important to remember, that white colonialism and imperialism has a beginning. And in my way of thinking about the world, that means it has an end. And so part of what we are trying to do is to imagine what are the steps that we must take to get to the other side of this very inconvenient, epochal interruption of like Black and indigenous world making. I mean, does that give people comfort on a day-to-day when you like just having to deal with white folks and the travesties that they create and the sense that they want to destroy the planet? Nah.
No, of course not. But the end game is the end of white people. And that's what we all need to hope for and wait for and pray for, is that the white people will just disappear. Genocide is what this woman is calling for. Why is this clip going around right now? This clip is not from 2 days ago. This clip is from last year, I believe. Why is it making the rounds now? It's more important that it's making the rounds now than that it made the rounds a year ago, because it's been out there before. And this woman, if she were a different race, making comments about people of another race, would be not only fired from her job, of course she would be banned from everywhere. She would be kicked off of all social media. She would probably be kicked out of her neighborhood. She would probably be debanked, okay? She would be removed from society, and she is not. The reason it matters that we see these kinds of videos and see this kind of commentary is to show you that very point about hierarchy and hypocrisy, okay? The liberal media want to whip us up into a frenzy about anything that you possibly could see on the right. Meanwhile, the things that they say, the things that they do are so much more egregious. And it's why I can't get worked up. It's why I simply, to get right back to the first story of the show, I cannot get worked up about the things Trump does. Trump is a freaking choir boy compared to the libs. The stuff that Trump says, the tweets, the mean tweets, the things about people's faces, the tax issue that he had, so he's got this minor tax fine. It's nothing compared to these people. The fact that, I don't know, there was some story about the Republicans pressuring someone to do, I don't even know. Remember, what was the first impeachment thing that they tried? It doesn't even matter when you look at the corruption of the Democrats, when you look at the way that the Democrats and potentially the government now, it seems, were pressuring social media to rig their elections for. It's just, I don't care. Because whenever we cover these stories, the Democrats will say, and the libs and the people on social media, Michael, you can't suggest there was a problem with the election. You have to go out, you've got to constantly attack Republicans whenever they say anything that is not totally approved by Twitter and Facebook. I don't want to hear it. Listen to the absolutely vile rhetoric coming out of this woman's mouth. The fact that no one has cared, it's been out there for a year, that tells you more than anything that she or any Republican has to say. Speaking of